The mainstream media has a lot of culpability in stirring up that hyper-polarised debate.
I just cannot get my head around why anybody would think that amassing 2,000 men in one area is not asking for trouble. I can't get my head around it. And if anyone doesn't actually know places like Scampton and stuff very well, you've got schools very, very close to this proximity.
The government needs to get a grip of the actual issue, which is to stop letting illegal military-age men into the country.
How can we trust the Home Office is taking this crisis seriously when they so recklessly ferry migrants around the country without testing them for contagious diseases first?
Asylum seeker hotels are disproportionately affecting the working class. A total of 95 staff at a hotel in Wales will lose their jobs now because it's going to be used to house asylum seekers.
I think that it is cynically within the financial interests of news outlets to circulate very clickbaity, sensationalist headlines, narratives of us versus them that spark fears and therefore spark clicks. And in these narratives, it's often the most marginalised groups that are demonised and turned into villains. So yes, from an economic perspective, I think that the media has prioritised its financial gain to its public service responsibilities when it comes to immigration. But at a more basic level, there's also a crisis within journalism. We're expected as journalists to produce so much content within such a short space of time, and corners get cut, and people don't do the necessary homework. They don't get the necessary voices in their stories. How many articles have you read about asylum seekers and refugees that never actually quote a single asylum seeker or refugee? If you are constantly reading about this story and looking at the people involved from the outside and never hearing their voice, then you are not being taught to empathize with them. And that's really problematic, because journalism 101 is that you need to get all sides of the story. And the most important side of the story is the side of the person living it. And that's the story that you don't see as much as any other side of this story. So the media, I would say, at its worst case, is actively profiting from stirring up fears, and at a best case is corner cutting and failing to get the necessary perspectives to tell this story from a humane and empathetic perspective. I think the hyper-politicization of this topic is not really in anyone's interest. I'm an immigration reporter. That, to me, when I started out, was really a question of human rights reporting. But actually, it's become a political game. It's a question of political reporting, because the topic of immigration is so detached from the realities of the ground. It's so instrumentalized in this left-wing, right-wing, abstract debate of ideas that it barely represents the reality anymore. And so while, yes, these are very important, serious questions about how we manage this budget, how we provide the most effective, efficient humanitarian solution, it's a complicated policy game, it's not about policy anymore. It's about packaging, it's about politics, and that is not helpful to anyone. Firstly, it has caused individuals within our society to feel unnecessarily afraid of an imagined threat. It's caused us to look for answers to real questions in the wrong places. We shouldn't be looking for refugees and criminalizing refugees to solve our society's problems. We need to be looking at policymakers and holding them to account there. It's a distraction, and I think it's one that comes at a massive emotional cost to our society. And when you have such hyper-polarized discussions, it's going to lead to a hyper-polarized society, and that is a rift that we all have to live with. So I think we need to take a breath and step back when we engage with this debate. Remember that it's a question of human rights, and it's a question of community, and at the end of the day we all kind of want the same things. We just need to learn how to talk about it better.